All right. Welcome. This is Dan Radomski with Centrepolis Accelerator, and welcome to our webinar, Selling Your Products Online, Best Practices Revealed by Experts. Originally, we had this planned for earlier in the spring, and this had to be pushed back due to the pandemic. We were hoping to have this as a live event, and someday hope to have some live events where we can all gather here in the Centrepolis Accelerator and you can take a look at some of what we have available in the way of prototyping and co-working space here in our facility. So we have, Centrepolis has over 100 clients now. Many are, selling consumer products or other types of products that require real attention to e-commerce and selling online. So we came up with this idea of putting a webinar together very specifically to talk about all the things that are important from building a website, e-commerce engine, from potentially crowdfunding your product to market, and then of course selling through social media and through Amazon. So we have some great speakers here today. Very glad to have them. So for those dialing in, this event will be recorded. And the presentation, as well as the recording, will be provided to all that have registered within 24 hours. We want this to be an interactive session, so if you have any questions, obviously all of you are muted other than the speakers. So if you're familiar with Zoom, at the lower part of the screen, you can actually use a chat function to type in your questions. So I'll encourage you to do that throughout the presentation. And then as each speaker completes their presentation, we'll field some questions from the chat box. So, so the speakers we have today are three real friends of the organization, Centrepolis, and have been really pivotal in helping a lot of our clients be successful in bringing their products to market and selling online. So I am very glad to have a couple of these experts with us today to help share some of their work. I am having a little hard time advancing the slides, so give me a second while I figure this out. All right. So can you see my screen right now? All right. Having a little bit of difficulty. All right, so here we go. Sorry about that. So we'll have Jeff Wenzel with Woodshed Agency, a real expert in crowdfunding, be able to pre-sell your product as well as equity crowdfunding, as well as digital marketing expertise. We also have Hardy Siegel, Function Post, who is real master at developing websites, videos, and animations to help with branding and support for e-commerce strategy. And then Marla Bogarts, who with Full Circle Wins, that is a real expert in kind of the tricks of the trade and how to sell your product online, particularly with Amazon. She'll be sharing some of her experiences and success stories. A little bit on Centrepolis first, just for those that may be less familiar. Centrepolis is the only real true hardware-based accelerator in the state of Michigan. And what that really means is we help companies that have physical products and advanced manufacturing technologies commercialize and bring in their products to market and help them prepare for manufacturing and scale their business. And our mantra is really trying to help Michigan-based entrepreneurs and businesses not only develop their product here, but design, engineer, prototype, and manufacture in the state of Michigan. Centrepolis was a partnership between Lawrence Tech University, the City of Southfield, and Michigan Economic Development Corporation to designate a smart zone incubator that can support a number of companies across the state. So we have funding from these organizations and support, as well as from Eagle and the Michigan Energy Office to support our Clean Tech Hardware Accelerator and the New Economy Initiative. What's unique about our group is we not only serve startups, but also small businesses. So about half of our clients are established small businesses that have ideas for new products or manufacturing technologies, and we support their their pathway to market as well. We have 3 vertical accelerator programs. One is Manutech Incubator that's in partnership with Automation Alley and Lean Rocket Lab, focused on manufacturing technology. And then the Clean Tech Hardware Accelerator, as I mentioned, for energy-related innovations. And then we also have a Industry 4.0 Accelerator, also in partnership with Automation Alley and Lean Rocket Lab, focused on automation technologies and manufacturing operational efficiency innovations. That last accelerator has a $1.3 million seed fund and makes investments directly into companies. So what's unique about Centrepolis is that we try to work with companies very early on in the development of their product. So very often what happens with hardware-based companies is, you know, whether they're at proof of concept or developing early prototypes, they often rush to market and they don't maybe have all the expertise they need on their team to really develop a product that's very durable, very reliable, or meets the right cost points. And too often what happens is companies then find themselves having to retreat in the technology readiness levels and have to take on recurring design engineering and production costs. And then they lose a lot of time and money, and ultimately sometimes lose the confidence of their customers and investors and fail. So what we try to do is put a very strong, experienced team of experts together to help our clients develop their products, right? So these are people that have 30 years experience in product design, engineering, tooling, manufacturing, material selection, experts in design for manufacturability, electronics, mechanical systems. And we actually assign these talented people to our clients very specifically for 6 to 12 months or whatever it takes to help them successfully bring their product to market. And we do have a prototyping lab here at Centrepolis that can help support that as well. 3D printing, as well as machining, scanning tools. We also have a virtual reality studio for product development collaboration. We also have co-working space for those that need a place to work out of, right here on the campus of Lawrence Tech in Southfield, Michigan. To support our companies, we use the Build for Scale curriculum. This was a unique training curriculum for physical product developers that I played a role in developing. And we use this kind of product development manufacturing 101, but specifically has a lot of templates and support to help companies with their, developing their product. Includes a lot of templates you see here, anything from business planning and strategic partnership type of agreements, investment documents like term sheets, private equity offerings. But more importantly, as you're developing a physical product, we have bill of materials templates and FEMA templates, supply chain management documentation as well. And we've been very successful over the last few years, being focused on hardware. We've been able to help develop a lot of new businesses in the state of Michigan and create jobs. And many of the companies that we've supported have raised capital, and more importantly, we've helped bring many new products to market, including those that need to sell via e-commerce. 100% success rate in bringing new products to market with the clients that we have deep level engagements with. And one particular metric that I'm proud of is, as these companies develop their products, we connect them to local-based Michigan design engineering and manufacturing firms. So as you can see there, we're generating business to the local supply chain as well. So we have a couple big events coming up that I want to make sure you're aware of. The Hardware Tech Summit, which was originally in June of last summer, has been moved to October 2nd on National Manufacturing Day. We will have a hardware business plan competition during that event. And we're also partnering with Automation Alley on their Integrate Industry 4.0 conference in November. And with that said, I'm going to introduce Jeff Wenzel with Woodshed. Jeff, you can take the dials and pull up your presentation. We've been working with Jeff and his team at Woodshed Agency for a couple years now, and I've been very impressed with their ability to help companies launch their products and businesses through crowdfunding. They're also real masters at just digital marketing. And with that said, Jeff, introduce yourself and Woodshed.
Hey everybody, hope you guys are all doing well. So like Dan said, I'm Jeff. I have a nickname Fuzzy too. You can call me that. I will answer. And I'm from Woodshed Agency. We've been doing crowdfunding since the beginning of it. I think we had like the 20th Kickstarter ever. We met Perry Chen, the creator of Kickstarter, back before Kickstarter even existed, and kind of threw out what we wanted to do, and ended up running somewhere over 300 some odd campaigns. And we've now turned those successes into helping companies do equity crowdfunding, as well as just launching e-commerce using tools like Shopify or WooCommerce and that type of stuff. So that's us in a nutshell. Let me just go ahead and make sure this is all working here. All right. Yeah, so that is myself here. And again, we've been doing this for quite a while now. And some of the things that we've looked at too is we are sort of in a new era of crowdfunding. Early on, what we found is that a lot of projects could just go and be on Kickstarter and raise $20,000, $30,000. Really, that is long gone right now. What we're currently seeing is that you've got to be a pretty established company with an actual crowd to do crowdfunding. You really have to have your ducks in a row, meaning that there is an audience, you have a good email list, you have a good Facebook presence or Instagram presence. And that's really only where you're going to have a true success. It really isn't about the idea anymore. It's about, can you actually deliver the idea? Do you have your manufacturing in order? Are you going to get this product? There's too many scenarios of campaigns that have been supported and they never deliver. So the audience is definitely wised up, and now they want to see that you're a lot further along in that stage before they start doing pre-order. But these are just some general stats, kind of just to be thinking about in terms of crowdfunding. And you can see here, a lot of projects get launched, and there isn't that much success rate. And really, what we're looking at there is what I'm talking about, is that you've got to be further along before you look at crowdfunding than maybe what you thought of maybe 5-6 years ago. So really think about that it's more than likely that you're going to fail your first time going out than you're going to have success. So we try to avoid that at all costs by going through some of the stuff we're going to talk about today. So as I'm talking, crowdfunding is evolving, and social media is what's really moving the crowdfunding space right now. Almost weekly, there's a new change to an algorithm, whether it's on Facebook or TikTok or Instagram, pick a platform. So that's what's constantly changing, as well as our culture. All this stuff is changing, what people want to see, how people want to react, what's working, what's not working. All of that impacts what's happening in the crowdfunding space. And it's ultimately, how are you driving people and traffic into your page and getting them to convert? So really, you got to think about social media as that. And then also, we have access is now currently shrinking. There is a ton of campaigns getting launched every day. There's a ton of noise. So that the chances of success are actually going down, because there just isn't enough inventory in our news feeds for us to see every single project. So with all that said, that means you as a creator have got to adapt and have really unique story, and you've got to have a really great product for you to cut through that noise. And if you don't have that stuff, you are going to be one of those campaigns that doesn't fund. So I'm going to let you know too, I'm going to kind of go through this a little bit quicker, obviously for today. So feel free to kind of get your questions at the end, because I know I'm going to go quickly through this just for time's sake. So let's jump into it here. So let's look at product, right? So let's start with, what really does make your product special? Something we hear all the time is, I made this thing and everybody's going to want this thing. And I have to come back and say, yeah, but who really wants this thing? Who is that buyer persona right now? Are you solving a problem? A lot of times for crowdfunding, it's a very simple equation: problem, solution, and you're the expert to bring it to market to fix that problem. So what problem are you really solving, out there in the space right now? Next is, the crowdfunding space has to have something that is cool and tech forward. It's got to move the needle. It can't be something that I've seen on Amazon or seen on Alibaba or seen somewhere else. It really has to, when I see it, go, that's cool. I want that thing. And if you don't have that, again, you'll fall into that non-successful part of the equation. Are there others like it? Again, I kind of referenced this a minute ago. Like, if you're going to show me something that there's 10 of these things, you aren't going to be successful. The Kickstarter or crowdfunding space is about early adopters. They want to be the first people to have it. They want to be the people who are talking about it at a party after they buy it. That's their identity factor is built into that. So again, if you have to put out something that is incredibly unique that I've never seen. This is a phenomenal example of it right here called Slow Dance. It's a moving picture frame where this feather moves a little bit, and it was just hip and cool. And again, raised a ton of money, but I've never seen anything like it. And then who is your customer? The Kickstarter and Indiegogo space is usually 25 to 45-year-old white males. That's who's buying on these platforms. So if you come in and say my product is 100% for women, we may have an issue. So a lot of the stuff we're doing too with the client is, who is your customer? Who is really going to buy that? And it's not everybody, because already it's somebody who likes crowdfunding and likes supporting young startup companies. It's not an Amazon purchase where they're getting it in 2 days. They're really, this customer is somebody who wants to buy into your story and watch it go all the way through. So really be thinking about who is your customer. And most of the time your customer isn't set up or isn't somebody who is understanding what Kickstarter is, right? Which is a whole nother animal that you have to do an education process. How does Kickstarter work? How does Indiegogo work? So it's really, really important that you hone in and say, this is who my customer is. Now, talking about platforms a little bit, really there's two big boys in the crowdfunding space, and that's going to be Kickstarter, Indiegogo. And this is reward-based style crowdfunding. This is going to be your scenario around, I am pre-ordering a widget. I want the thing, I'll wait 6 months, and I want it to show up. It's not an investment. It's not a donation. It's, I'm ordering the thing and I will sit and wait. Then we also have equity-based crowdfunding. That's going to be platforms like WeFunder, Republic, Start Engine. This is where I don't want your widget. I want to buy some shares into your company, and I want to know how you're going to make me money, right? I want to give you $100 and you're going to give me back $10,000. That type of equation. So I don't want your T-shirt. I don't want your hat. I want you to be a really, really successful business. And then you're going to look at, there's other variables in terms of you can use tools like Shopify has some apps and widgets as well. So a lot of different variables there in terms of how to do crowdfunding. Next, we're going to look at presentation. What are you putting out for people to absorb? And in today's world, content is king. You cannot launch a campaign right now with shoddy photos, crappy video, bad copy. We're not buying it. So how are you presenting your idea to the public for them to absorb it? So first is going to be, we're looking at emotional appeal. Do you connect with somebody? If I put it out there, are they going to have a reaction to it of like, man, this would really fix a problem in my life, or this would be great for my friend who has this issue. Next, we're going to look at visual appeal. Do you look good? Is it stylized? Is there a brand? Is there an image? Does it look like something that is, really well thought out and a lot of time has been spent on it? Then we're looking at cohesive rewards, right? Do your rewards make sense? Again, nobody wants your T-shirt or your hat for a company they never heard of. They want the thing priced accordingly that makes sense, that they're going to ultimately go in and want to buy and want to wait. Not only just want to buy, but want to wait for potentially a year to get it, right? Like, again, think about how many things that you might have purchased recently, especially, in these last 3 months or so. How many of those purchases would you be willing to wait a year for? Probably not many of them. Then we want to look at making sure that you're not lost in features. And this is actually one of our warts. This is not one of our prettiest moments. This is a campaign that did not fund. And it got lost in the sauce and it didn't do anything very well. You can see it's this sort of screwdriver, scissor, knife, hammer, leveling thing. And it, totally a tchotchke product that you would buy at a CVS that you're checking out. But this guy wanted to have it was like $130 price point, so, and it got lost where it didn't do anything correct. So you want to make sure that when you're presenting, you have a very crystal focus of like, this is what my thing does, not, hey, my thing can do all these things. So, and then with that said, that means we're solutions focused, right? We are this is the problem we're solving. You're going to buy this thing and your life is going to be better. This is a great example of it as well. So my business partner, Sean, is a video photographer. This is something that he didn't have in his arsenal. And if you look at the Viral Light, it was a cable cam for his GoPros. It allowed you to do a whole new set of shots. That's all it did. It didn't try to do everything. It tried to do one thing really, really well. So this is the whole like presentation, what you are putting out.
I think the Cream magazine story is the ultimate underdog story in a lot of ways. It's this group of sort of self-described, misfits that came together in Detroit in the late 60s. In a few short years, they were the #2 music magazine next to Rolling Stone.
We all wanted to be on the cover of Cream.
Rolling Stone liked to be the authoritative, serious, definitive voice like the New York Times.
I always thought of Cream as kind of snot-nosed and torn pants and can of beer.
Cream is more than a magazine. It's a living reminder of my father, who was Cream's founder and publisher. Well, my father passed away when I was about 4 years old, so I never really knew him. And what really appeals to me about making this film is I'm really going to get to know my father in a way that I never really have before. This is probably as close as I'll ever get to having a cup of coffee with my dad.
I mean, for you, Les.
So I don't want to go through that whole thing. Just give me a second. I'm going to pause this one here. Let me go back. That was an example of an emotional appeal content, right? Where you've got to have a story, you could relate to it. You would support that project if you thought, if it was something that you related to. So if you guys want to see that video, it's up, it's public. Or I can send it to you guys later because it's about a 3.5 minute video. But it really is the example of a great emotional appeal piece of content. So, all right, so let's move on. Let's talk a little bit about promotion and audience. So I kind of mentioned this a minute ago. You have to bring a crowd of people. It is called crowdfunding. One of the biggest misnomers people have is that they think that they just put this thing on the internet and all this money comes in, and it's just not true. So what we look for is something that we call 100 friends, family, and fools. These are the people that support you on day one of your campaign. If you can have that success, you will then come out of the gate really, really strong, and you'll actually trend on Kickstarter. So we just launched a campaign yesterday at literally noon. We did $65,000. We have over 300 and some odd backers, all jumping on that first day. And the reason that's important is that you have to hit at least minimum 30% of your goal in the first 48 hours to have a 90% shot of funding. So it's all about those first 2 days. So that means most of my work is actually in what we call our pre-launch phase. How am I getting these people? How am I getting 100 people to say, I'll back you on day one? And a lot of people go, 100 people, that's not very many. That's easy. Until you start realizing, I only have 25 friends. I need 75 more that will back. So you've got to find and get to that audience of about 100 people who are going to back on day one. All right, next you're going to want to be looking at how are you building that audience. So this funnel that we're looking at here is what has to happen in the customer journey. That top of the funnel, awareness or interest, they have to know that you exist in the world, that this product is going to come to light. So that's your top. That's just getting people aware. Next, they need to get into a scenario where they consider intent, they evaluate. Do they really want this thing? Does it really solve the problem? Are you the right person to bring it to market? They have to go through that middle part. And the bottom of the funnel is actually where the Kickstarter that's public happens. It's the orange part down there. A lot of people just start with the bottom and go, hey, I put the Kickstarter up. Why aren't people buying it? Well, that's because they didn't go through this journey. They didn't grow. They didn't find out, how this product has come to market, why it's such an important thing, and what your story is. So if people don't go through this journey, they are never going to purchase your Kickstarter. Next, you got to advertise. The world we live in right now, we all have to pay a toll to Facebook and Google. There is no organic traffic. There's no, the word viral gets thrown around a lot, and yes, they exist. The chances of your campaign becoming that is slim to none. So with that said, we have to have a strategy where we are driving traffic into your page. So that means if you do not have an ad budget, you're probably not going to be successful. And when I say success too, I'm talking raising $50,000 and up. Got to have an ad budget. got to be willing to spend and got to be willing to take the time to learn how to understand Facebook ads, how they work, and don't have expectations of, I spend $1,000 and, you know, I just raised $1 million. It just doesn't work that way. Typically on average, we're spending roughly about 20% of whatever we raise. So if I raise 100 grand, I probably spent 20 grand in advertisement. So you should always be thinking about that in your mind too, that there has to be an ad budget in today's world. Next, you got to be social. You got to actually be on the internet. The amount of times I have clients who say, I don't go on Facebook. I'm not going to comment. I don't do that stuff. You're not going to have success. It's about being social. It's a social community that you're building. So maybe you don't need to be on all the platforms, but you at least need to be out there and have a crowd built somewhere. So if you have the mindset of, I'm not going to go out and be public, not going to work either. And then next, you got to trust the data. Everything that we do is about, I'm ready to launch because the data says we're ready to launch, not I just picked a date out of the blue. So you really want to make sure that you're looking at the data and you're trusting it and you're seeing, because at the end of the day, it's all a math equation. How much traffic do you send to your page? What's it convert at? And can you get enough traffic to support your goals? So again, always make sure that you are trusting the data. All right, so let's walk through a little bit of promotion and audience. So this was a campaign I showed a little bit. It's called Backbeat. Again, you can go over to Kickstarter and search for it right now. With this campaign, we had an ad budget roughly of about $5 grand. We had a ton of impressions, meaning that the project was absolutely hitting all the marks. It was designed specifically for who it was going after. So we had a ton of Facebook engagement, just this constant audience of people talking. We used Messenger, Facebook Messenger quite a bit to actually have direct one-on-one conversations with this potential audience. And we ended up raising $130,000 for this product, but most of that stuff came from our Facebook Messenger strategy using chatbots. And the reason what we do that is it makes it feel like it's a real one-to-one conversation with the project creator, because there is a sense of, I need to a little bit know that my money is safe. And I know that you guys are a real, like a real human being that's going to bring this to market. So always look at how you're using Facebook Messenger in your strategy so that you get that sort of real one-to-one conversation. I only got a couple more here. We'll run through these kind of quick here. So next we got price and rewards. For these campaigns to be successful, it comes down to your pricing structure and what are you offering. So what we're looking at here is another one of our non-success stories. And what we're looking at here is it was a camping chair that literally did everything. It had Bluetooth, it had speakers, it had lights, it had like a flashlight on top of the lights, it had a carrying case. I mean, it had all this stuff. And it ended up being about a $300 camping chair. So, we assumed, oh, everybody's going to want this thing, until you start realizing that most of the people who buy a camping chair just want to watch their kid play a game, or they just want to sit outside. They actually want to disconnect most of the time. And that is a $10 purchase at Walmart. So to say to somebody, instead of spending $10 or $20, you're going to spend $300 on this thing and have all of this distraction around you. And we found out people did not want that. So again, making sure that you're not priced too high, or you're not priced too, you're just priced in a scenario that nobody would actually purchase it. Then you want to make sure that you're not priced too low. This was a company, again, this is one of our failures. They came to us sort of after the fidget spinner phase. That was when it was really, really popular on Kickstarter. So they were also, not only were they late to the party, they also brought us something where it cost like, I think it was like $17 to buy this thing. The amount of traffic we had to drive to raise $30,000 is just astronomical. And then again, they didn't really have a very large ad budget, and there wasn't a long story. So again, this is a campaign that did not work. Now this number is a little bit skewed, but the most popular tier typically on Kickstarter is $25. And the reason I say it's a little bit skewed is that this is taking into all account all campaigns. Even if your campaign is just trying to raise $500, $1,000, most people will back it at $25. Really what you want to try to get to is an average of around $100. If you can get an average $100 cost per order, you have the ability then to run traffic and get actual conversions. You want to be, maybe $50 too, but again, the more that your number comes down on your average order, the more traffic you need to send. So you really want to try to make sure you're putting bundles together to make sure that people are purchasing, 75 to 125 bucks, and really $100 would be a great sort of average tier for you. Then you want to be thinking about super early bird pricing. This is how you drive all those backers in the first couple of days, is you're going to give them a super big discount. Listen, if you buy in the first 24 hours, it's probably actually at cost for me. But the more momentum you get, you start making your money on day 7, day 10, day 14, day 20. So you really want to make sure you have a strong super early bird pricing structure, so that you get all of that traffic in that first 48 hours, so that you have a very, very successful campaign. And then you want to make sure that you're pricing accordingly if people order 2 or 3. So again, you're rewarding as much as you can with discounts to drive as much traffic right away. And I kind of mentioned this just a minute ago too, thinking about multiple tiers. I can't stress this enough. It's shocking to us what people buy half the time. So the campaign we just launched yesterday, which you guys can go look at right now, it's public. It's called Think Tank. So if you go over to Kickstarter and you search for Think Tank, people were buying 4-packs and 8-packs of this bag. It's a travel bag. So, we weren't expecting people to buy 4-packs, but we still offer it. So really be thinking about how you're pricing and encouraging people to buy bundles. And again, this is how you get that average cost up. So instead of just buying one at $30, sell a 4-pack for $120 or $110, give a little bit of a discount. So you really want to be thinking about multiple tiers as well. And last, let's talk a little bit about team and fulfillment. This is one that we find is sort of overlooked a lot. Does your team actually inspire confidence? If this is your first time doing this, if you've never done product development, you've never seen anything like this to the end, people are going to be very nervous. So you want to make sure that you're in that video, you as the project creator, you want to make sure that you're showing, we've done this before, we're not learning on your money. So you really want to make sure that you're proving to people that you know what you're doing. Then you want to make sure you have a handle on your component sourcing. This is the biggest failure of all time in Kickstarter, the coolest cooler. If you're not familiar with it, a couple Google searches and you will find a ton of stuff. They never delivered this thing. They raised $13 million and nobody got their cooler. And all because they did not have their sourcing laid out correctly. Another one that the coolest had, have you actually accounted for shipping? I will let everybody know I've killed, I think, 3 companies because we didn't have our shipping in order, meaning that we had very successful Kickstarter campaigns and they did not do the math correct with the post office on how they were going to ship this thing. So if you've ever tried to ship a cooler, coolers are very expensive to ship because it's a big item with a whole bunch of air in it. And again, this is one of the other things that killed the coolest coolers, that they did not account for shipping. And this is another thing that we see project creators forget about all the time. It's like, if I'm doing my work, you need to be figuring out shipping, and not just shipping, packaging. How are you getting it to that spot? And then last, here, what is your roadmap in terms of credibility? If you put up something like, oh yeah, we'll get this ready to go in 3 months. It never takes 3 months. It's always longer. So really be open and honest with people about how long it's going to take to get your product into people's hands. So with all that said, these are some of the things that we have seen on how to be successfully funded. It's all about preparation. It's all about about getting your ducks in a row. Also being comfortable with that failure is probably likely. It's a huge part of this. You as the project creator need to be social. You need to be willing to go out and have a lot of conversations one-on-one. If you do fail the first time, think about trying again. And at the end of the day, you probably will be able to get to a scenario of being successfully funded. So, all right, guys, that's all I got for the moment. Thanks everybody for tuning in. I know that was quick. This is typically an hour and a half deck. I could go into so many more details and examples of stuff. So I know I ran through it pretty quickly. So if you guys got questions or want to reach out afterwards, Jeff at woodshed.agency or info@woodshed.agency, and we will be more than happy to answer anybody's questions that anybody might have. So thanks everybody. Appreciate it.
We did. Thank you very much, Jeff. We did have a couple questions come in. I particularly like the last example, the cooler, Jeff, that
Sure.
and the timeline you point out. So one thing that we've actually made a pretty good team with Woodshed and our accelerator is we spend a lot of time working with companies to make sure when the timing is right? You do generally have to have your product design complete and validated and tested and ready to go. I mean, crowdfunding campaigns for product launches are have to be carefully thought through on timing, and specifically to make sure that, to Jeff's point, that you can deliver the product within 6 months or 9 months reliably, right? So for hardware companies, it's a great tool to be able to raise that money to help pay for the tooling and pay for the manufacturing and to pay for the packaging and fulfillment. But you can get into a real scenario of launching too quickly, right? And not being able to deliver. So there's a couple questions that came in. And again, I want to, for those that are online, I recommend if you have a question, submit it through the chat function. But one person asked, is, crowdfunding really only for B2C, directly, business to consumer? Is there ever a scenario when it is viable for business to business?
Yeah. So if you're looking at B2B, we're probably looking at equity crowdfunding. And that's going to be your Start Engines, Republic, WeFunder. Most of our companies that we're doing equity are B2B plays. They're trying to raise $1 million. They've got a contract with a municipality somewhere and they need to scale up. There's a few times that B2B might work, but if I was to look at it, I would probably not run it on a platform. The Kickstarter and Indiegogo community is all about, I want to pre-order this thing. So if you're going B2B, look at equity. But for equity, you really need to be, you need to have some revenue and have some sales, or at least have some contracts. So any of my campaigns that have maxed out their $1.070 million raise, they were a pretty well-established business before we went that route.
So the other thing I want to make sure that we communicate is, this is primarily about selling your products online, right? So we didn't address crowdfunding for equity in your business. That is another option, and particularly for B2B companies, you obviously not just B2C type of products. It's viable, as Jeff mentioned. Woodsheds does quite a bit of work in that area, crowdfunding for equity. So for those that are on the line that want to look at that as a potential for their company, I would suggest you follow up with Jeff. There was another question that came in about, when you're working with Kickstarter or Indiegogo as your platform, what percentage do they typically charge the company?
So the platforms. So Kickstarter is usually between 7 to 8%, and that's going to be your percentage to the platform, and then your credit card fees. And then I guess I see the question too about kind of working on your own. We actually typically recommend never trying to do a Kickstarter on your own, not just with an agency, but just actually having a team of people. I think there's a stat too that I could pull up that if you have a team of at least 5 people, your chances of success go up like 60%. And everybody underestimates how much work it is. The company we launched yesterday, if you want to think tank, we've got 15 people on it, and we were all on Zoom. It looked like this yesterday on Zoom for us. Everybody has different marching orders from what I'm doing to what they're doing. And it really has to be that. So again, for these campaigns to go big, it's never just like you just doing it yourself. And also, I mean, this is what's happened too. This is sort of that evolution of crowdfunding. If you don't have data in order, in your world, you probably are going to have to work with an agency, either like myself or some of my competitors out there, that has data, at least has past backers or has a starting point, because it could take you 2 to 3 years to build up the database that you need before you launch. So you've got to at least start with something. And that's something that, unfortunately, like, it's kind of a deterrent for us, because when we started in Kickstarter, I didn't have to do any of this stuff. There was no such thing as agencies. You would put up something, go on Twitter and raise 30 grand, and it was great. But that whole world is just completely gone right now. So you really got to make sure you have a lot of data. And that data, you might have that data, like people pixeled on your website, or you know, emails that you've created, all that sort of stuff.
So Jeff, thank you very much. Appreciate you sharing your knowledge in this area, and obviously those that are on the line can follow up directly. I want to transition to our next speaker, but I would encourage you to work with Jeff and connect. We'll make sure that you have his contact information. They also do a great job of market sensing and kind of building that kind of following through your social media, ahead of the campaign, right? So that you have people are already interested in your product and your business before you even launch your crowdfunding campaign. And been very successful in helping a number of our companies launch their products. So let's transition to the next speaker, Hardy Siegel. Hardy, if you could pull up your screen. So Hardy Siegel with Function Post has also been a friend of the organization, Centrepolis, and has helped many of our clients develop very compelling websites, videos, animations. We heard a lot from Jeff that content is king, right? So Hardy's going to share a little bit of some of the content that he's created that's supported e-commerce in general, as well as crowdfunding campaigns, and just supporting digital marketing in general. Hardy?
Good, let's see, afternoon, everybody. Dan, are you seeing my presentation screen or the full screen?
I'm seeing the presentation, so.
Hang on a sec. Let me switch something. It'll go blank for a sec. How about, hang on one sec. How about that?
There we go.
Okay. Good afternoon, good morning. My name's Hardy Siegel. I'm the owner of Function Post. My history started in graphic design at College for Creative Studies in Detroit. I worked at a number of production companies in town, primarily supporting corporate communications, broadcast communications, television commercials, advertising, sports. And in 2002, I opened up Function Post in Royal Oak and ran that in Royal Oak, Michigan from 2002 to 2008. And then in 2009, transitioned more into a contract service, contracting and servicing a lot of marketing agencies, advertising agencies in town as a collective and also as an individual. So simply, I mean, I have a pretty short time. I know we're running on the clock here. I'm not going to try and not repeat what a lot of what Jeff just reviewed and actually what Dan reviewed earlier, because a lot of our lessons here are common. And the common theme, as you can hear both from Jeff and Dan here, were kind of take your time and really prepare your product, prepare yourself, and prepare your launch. So digital communications, I'm just going to dive right in here. Digital communications, whether it be web, video, animation, print, right, is, and you'll see a lot of commonality here as well. Clarity, it builds brand awareness and attracts attention, generates action and such. Your designs, when you create designs, should be able to migrate from mediums to mediums, whether it be web or print or animation, right? The idea is to keep it simple and get straight to the essence of the message. And what's really important here is allowing the consumer, and that by consumer I mean the person who's engaging with your product, to really finish the thought. You want to give them a little bit of spark, light that fuse, but allow them to engage and allow them to want to interact with you. And I think you heard again a little bit of that from Jeff. So the basic theory here is, this is an old theory, is when you're baiting the trap, the mouse trap, right? Leave room for the mouse. In essence, don't clutter your message. And again, you're looking for engagement. You want to tailor the scope of your message. You got to identify your target. Some of you, depending on where you are in your development of your product or service, who is your target in this case? Is it your initial investors? Is it a partner in growth? Is it, as Jeff mentioned, is it crowdsourcing? Is it direct to consumer? Again, keep it simple. Engage your target and build awareness and figure out what sources, what things you need to attract attention. And remember, overall, there is no one-size-fits-all solution. And that goes back to what Dan was saying, where Centrepolis, we deal with a lot of startups. And as Jeff reinforced, there are a lot of startups that don't make it. So the trick is to spend your money wisely. And see rule number 1, which was leave room for the mouse. Remember, take your time, know your value and the value of your product your customer doesn't know. Critique is critical here. And by critique mean, taking criticism, taking suggestions, don't get defensive. It all trains you how to adapt, answer, and solve your product's problems. As an artist myself and going through College for Creative Studies, one of the key aspects of being a student back in those days, and still to this day, because I do teach down there as well, is learning to take critique and not be defensive, learning to take critique, learning to adapt. So we'll blow by this here. Very simple tool that we have in the biz here to our customers is quick, good, or cheap. Pick 2. That's generally a rule of thumb. And that chart, while not totally clear, really shows how cost, quality, and speed can affect how much a product costs, how much our service or animation costs, what you're going to need to sell depending on where you are in development. And we can discuss that again later. I do want to get this as some samples. Here's an example of that. And the example I typically give when I speak to customers for the first time is, I can animate you something for $100, or I can animate it for $100,000. Here is a very simple illustration that sort of elicits that. You have a 10-minute Spider-Man all the way down to a 12-second Spider-Man. So if you, depending on where your budget lies, don't be offended if an animator, a designer asks you what your budget is first. Because if you say how much is it's going to cost, he's generally going to go to a place where you probably either don't want to go or you don't understand that's where you need to go. What you can afford and what you can afford not to do in this case. There is no right way to do it. Same thing, when you're hiring a designer or animator, remember the costs that are buried in that, right? So this is a real simple example about buying a bottle of wine on the left, right? The cost of a bottle of wine might be $10, but on the right, you pay $45 for that same bottle. Well, these are all buried costs within that bottle of wine. And that applies to video production, photography, script writing, voiceover talent, website design, right? User experience within website design. If you use a website, if you hire a pro or do it yourself, there are plenty of website tools out there that you can do it, but you have to, again, value your time. Squarespace, WordPress, Wix, GoDaddy are some good examples. And if you can look at that little chart, you want to prep and outline your work. All your time is spent in that circle, right? Design, your wireframe, which is essentially your visual outline, a design of the website, your evolution of your design and your website, and then start over and keep going until you're ready into development and launch. What I have here, and let's hope this links, this is a website that we worked on recently. Everybody's seeing this, I assume?
Yep.
Okay. Yep. This is a website that this video was built separately and animated on the website. And then this is a very simple, very clean, basically a one-page website. It was developed within Centrepolis. And not a lot of information up here, but it again, the home page takes you directly to the single page, and then you can do things like link to different articles. Here's another one that we worked on. Now this one here rolls down to some videos that we created with it on the site. I know, trying to see if these will run. So these were more instructional videos. I won't play those too much more. Well, essentially what they did is just kind of ran through the process. So remember, don't undervalue the cost of the animation. Don't undervalue yourself and the time it would take you to do it, or the time it would take a pro to do it. Whether that be design, animation, or production, and the various iterations of production: video, photography, writing, art direction, voiceover, print, etc., etc., etc. Remember, you are driving the ship here. I or your pro can kind of lead you there, but you're the one who has to obviously make the decision to move forward and make those decisions as we go. We're going to just show some websites here, or some video animations here in a sec. That is my website below there at functionpost.com. Excuse me. So this was started as a drawing. Client came to me, said, we need to go to investors. We need to show how this product works. He actually had a full-size wooden mock-up of this thing. And we did this little animation for him. So the next step was this was it's actually a wind trap for a windmill. So the next step was to develop what this thing would look like practically. So this is kind of a lighter, low-end, low-res render of what this thing does and what it looks like. And what's happening there is now what we basically did as a bird, we flew and we parked ourselves on this thing. So what's happening now is the background is whizzing by us, right, when it's in final. So we built some practical things. Then the next thing he did, he says, well, I need something to leave at my trade show. I need something to attract attention. So this was a kind of a first pass version of it, where we took his product and I basically took some clip art and it's not playing very well here. Let's see if it can play. See if it'll play. There we go. It actually plays better than that. Keeps freezing there. I don't know what. We'll go to the next one. Maybe I can just go to the end here. There we go. So essentially what was going on is it revealed inside that farm scene. Then we have this thing we did actually for a company where we recorded voiceover and promoting this golf design technology. I just want to let it go a little bit longer, a little bit of 3D animation. So I'm going to advance here because again we're under a time frame. This is more infographic style. Again, really simple. Come from storyboards, script. And advance to this one. Little more advanced piece it did for Audi. Some of this is picking up stock animation, a little bit of this front piece. Some of it is custom photography. This is all animated here with a voiceover that tells the story. So what this is a preliminary drawing of an octopus arm coming through what looks like a simple white sheet. What was going on here, this is preliminary animations and test animations for the, I wanted to show this one. This is from the 2015 Detroit Red Wings playoff video. I'm going to advance this up here. And there you can see that was all visual projected on the ice. And really the only reason I really wanted to show that was I wanted to show, you know, the preparatory work that went into developing that piece. And we can talk about that again later. This is a very simple infographic style animation. And these four actually, I'm going to show them all at once here, are essentially all four different stylistically of communicating a message. You have one is an app driven up in the upper level. It develops showing an app. Another one is showing a corporate app. Another one showing a product with a on-screen interview. And the lower right is the a simple 2D, 3D-ish representation of a product, engineering product. I don't want to go into too much detail, but what I want to somewhat finish in this frame only saying that when I say there isn't a one-size-fits-all answer to your budget, you know, you can look at this animation and I think this one of them started around $8,000, and I know another one was around $60,000. So I just want you to understand how that all works. Let's see if I can go to my next slide. Okay, we can end there. That's my demo reel, the next one, and I know we're running short of time, so I want to kind of move on from
Artie,
there.
I think we're going to go beyond 11 a.m. So if anyone needs to leave, obviously this is recorded program and they could come back to it later. I want to make sure we have enough time to get to some questions we have for you as well as from our presentation. So a lot of the actual demos that Hardy was showing were actually with Centrepolis clients. So you've really done some fabulous work. We had a couple questions. One was around just websites in general. And the question is, you know, really should your website be just one long page or should it be multiple pages? And why would you decide to do a one page versus multiple pages?
Well, you know, is there a right answer there? I think the answer correlates more directly to what your business is and what you're trying to convey with your website. You know, to be honest, I don't know if I have a specific answer to that because I can tell you I've had a number of clients who want a one page when they clearly need a multiple, and they'll fight me tooth and nail. The idea is, you know, for instance, that RetroPerk, the one where I played the short little video, that was a simple website. There was, we put the video on the front page, but there was also, you could drill down and get more information as you wanted. I don't think there's a right or wrong answer. I think it really depends on where you are, what your product is, and that would be kind of an individual, you know, on a one-on-one individual basis. I don't, you know, like I said, there isn't a one size fits all, no matter what anybody tells you.
There is some value in one page where if you have more content on your homepage, it provides a
Right.
better chance of in Google searches, you're, showing up higher on the, higher up when someone searches on your product name or.
Yeah. Yeah.
But so the other, one thing that I found being, really valuable, Hardy, about your work, especially videos, even more so animations, is when you're dealing with a very complicated product or technology and you're trying to explain it, sometimes it really requires video or animation, right?
Right. And what I also wanted to, the one word I wanted to touch on and I actually glossed over a bit was amortizing your assets, where if you create animation assets or video assets, either way, in the pre-production phase, what I try and do is try and get the customer to understand that the money you're spending and the time you're spending up front to gather these assets are things you can use down the road, are things you can use in a website, things you can use in a kiosk at a trade show, things you can use to present to an investor. So it's not just let's get something done and get it out, and then all of a sudden it's outdated, it's useless video because we want to up our production value for the next phase. No, let's do it right the first time, and you're going to get your money out of it. I want you to be able to use this again. And that's something I try and drive home with clients.
Yeah, thanks, Hardy. I appreciate it very much. We'll continue to take questions, and then we'll have Hardy's contact information if anyone wants to follow up and look at having you support some of their services. The one point I'd like to make, though, that the couple examples you had there, the wind turbine is a perfect example, or even the golf club, right? It's kind of component-based design. Right. When it's all together, it looks like any other golf club, and you use the animation as a way to show the exploded view to show it's a component-based design, right?
Right.
And so the answer is, if you think you're having trouble getting across the uniqueness of your product design, then that generally means you need to be looking at animation or video or some more compelling way of visually getting across the value proposition of your product. So let's transition to Marla Bogarts. Marla, stop sharing your screen, Hardy, and she can grab the dials. So as we were working with a lot of, especially consumer products, and trying to go directly business to consumer, the Amazon rules a day, no doubt about it, and that's where people shop, and helping companies try to navigate how best to position, even first how to even get on Amazon, and then how to position their product for success and optimize sales is something Marla's played a critical role in. So with that said, Marla.
Hey everyone. So basically my background was that I used to work for a tech startup, and I'll keep it short because I know we're limited on time, but essentially after 4 years of working 100-hour weeks, something a lot of you people starting new companies will understand, I just was burnt out and I was looking for some wins. And one of the areas that we were sort of lacking on with one of our sister companies was Amazon. So I took on this sort of extra role, kind of looking for a way to just, find that quick win. And we had insane success. We had a 600% increase in revenue in a quarter. And so I sort of decided, maybe I was onto something, and I kind of left my corporate life, startup life, and I went out on my own, working on Amazon. So basically fast forward now, last year we did about 4 million on the platform. I have a really extensive category grouping. I'm not really niched in any one area, which makes it really exciting and easy to sort of test different things across different categories, figure out sort of what's working, what's not working. Amazon is sort of elusive. It's not like you can't just put it on the platform and expect success. It's constantly changing. There are lots of people who will tell you they know all about the Amazon algorithms. That's probably not true. We would all like to think we do, but we really don't. So kind of look at Amazon as like the checkout lane. of a product or a checkout lane. Like you go in and you want to buy something, and all of a sudden you start finding yourself grabbing extra things. And before you know it, you've gone in for one thing. We've all done it at Target, and you walked out with, you know, $200 of things you had no intention of buying. Being on Amazon is sort of like giving you street cred. There's a lot of consumers who will go to Amazon. They will look for the product. They will want to know, can I find it there? How are the prices? Do they have the best price? What's the going rate for this? What are the reviews? And while, you know, there are a lot of factors that skew things, like anybody obviously can leave a review, whether or not they purchased it, people tend to look at that for sort of social proof. So it's kind of a really great place to be discovered. I'll give an example. I had a client in 2018. We launched a vegan cocoa. They're a very small woman-owned company out of Colorado. The cocoa space is not new. I mean, there are a lot of major players. We had no idea what to expect. We have consistently been in the top 20 hot cocos on Amazon since we launched in 2018. We've been in the top 10, especially in Q4 when it's wintertime and people are cocoa shopping. But we beat out Ghirardelli, Starbucks, Swiss Miss, Nestle. And we are this tiny little company out of Colorado who in theory shouldn't be big, you know, breaking out into the big player space. But that's one of the things that Amazon can sort of do for you, is it allows a smaller company who positions themselves correctly to be able to dominate a market share that wouldn't be expected. So basically what's really important to think about is when you build your listing, anybody can go on to Amazon, throw up a listing, and hope for success. But there are some really important key components, and I know we're short on time, so I'll sort of breeze through this, but feel free to reach out to me. I'm happy to chat. The first thing is your title. That title is searchable. So just like anything else, think about it as your keywords. You want to identify your brand in there. You want to use some conversational details, things that set you apart, things that are important to your product. And you want to do that while kind of paying attention to inserting keywords in there. And it's really important that you lay that title out with breaks, whether that's parentheses or lines, commas, things like that, that just make it easy to read so that it doesn't feel like it's all jumbled together. Images is something that a lot of people don't think about. If you've already crowdfunded or you've done your website, you've probably put some effort into images, but you really need to have high quality images. You need to have high resolution images. Like, this is an area that you don't want to skimp on. It is your very first impression. And if you have this shoddy or low resolution or not well thought out image that doesn't display your product in all its glory, people are going to skim right past your listing and not click on it. The bullet points are just a really good area to say why you're different, why me, what would you buy? Do I have a guarantee? Is there something that makes me special? Is there something, important that makes me stand out from my other products? If you've had great press, like if you've been really successful on a crowdfunding campaign, you can say, as seen on Indiegogo, over 200% funded, or whatever that is. Like, it's just a great way to call out in very succinct little areas why they should choose you. It's sort of your first impression, aside from the title and the images. The next thing is your description. So you can use very limited HTML in that description, and it's really important to use that as a way to get keywords out there because it is searchable. And you want to lay it out. So you don't have to be a designer. You can go to an online editor, things like that, to just lay out a simple description. But you want to put all the information that is important about your product, and you can also use that to sort of say why my company versus another company. Keywords are in the back end. So those are something I see a lot of people make a mistake about, is it's a Boolean search. And what that means is you can have a list of keywords, and then when people search for them, they can be combined in any way. So if you have like a portable wine glass stemless tumbler as seen on Shark Tank, drink through lid to go, then I can take those keywords, and if somebody searches for a to-go wine tumbler or Shark Tank glass, those all pull in the back end. So those keywords are really important to sort of help people find you on Amazon, and you want to make sure that you are not repeating, for example, the word glass in 4 different areas because you're putting it into phrases. Let the back end do that for you and just keep single words there. The final thing on your listing is your reviews. I keep going back to that social proof, but it really is important. If you have 1-star review, chances are no one's buying your product. Even a 3-star reviews is a tough sell. You really want to be as close to that 5-star as you can. And if that means in the beginning you have to be creative by having people help build your reviews and things like that, then there are ways to sort of get those initial reviews. You want to do it ethically because Amazon will bust you if you try to be sly there. But it's also important to make sure that you've tested your product first. You don't want to put a product that you're not 100% on your quality control or on your user experience, because once you put that up and then you realize after the fact that you have issues, those reviews are there. So you really want to make sure that you're putting your best foot forward. I always suggest testing off Amazon with your consumer base before you go to Amazon. That way you're sure that you're not going to find this major manufacturing flaw or customer experience that's going to create an issue. All right, brand registry is something that is unique to those with approved trademarks. It's a beautiful little thing on Amazon that has many features. One is that it protects your brand. Let's say that somebody basically creates a counterfeit version of your product. If you have brand registry, you can go to Amazon through a quick form and you can file a complaint and then they will remove the product. It also applies to copyright and trademark issues. But the chances of you using those particular parts of the brand registry tool on a daily basis is very unlikely. Where it really benefits you is that you have access to a few features. One is enhanced brand content. I don't know if you've been scrolling through Amazon listings before and you've noticed at the bottom of the page, it's like a mini little 1-page website with images. There can be video. There is just, it's very visual and it will allow you to sort of tell your story more than those, quick images at the top and those bullet points. And it's a way to really enhance the customer experience on Amazon and make you stand out from all the noise. Another is your sponsored brand ads. And that is the ads that show up on the top of a search listing. It's basically a banner ad. So let's say that I'm looking for a loud outdoor stereo. At the top of my search results, I could have this beautiful image or a logo. I can have a tagline that says why they might want me, and then I can have my products. It just is a way to sort of stand out from all the product lists below because there's a lot of noise. The other is that you can have a storefront on Amazon, which is essentially a mini website embedded on Amazon. When someone clicks on your brand name, then they can go to that store. You can have multiple pages, you can have videos, FAQs, your products. People can shop directly from that storefront. You can drive ads to that storefront. It just adds a more official presence on Amazon to sort of, make you stand out from some of those sellers who are essentially just, bringing in from Alibaba, or they don't have anything proprietary or exciting. And then the final one is your video ads and content. So on your listings, if you have brand registry, you actually can load videos to your listing. So beneath your images, you'll have a chance to tell your story. So that could be that video that you used in your crowdfunding campaign. That could be some animation. That could be, anything that sort of helps you stand out. And you may also now add video ads in Amazon, which is very new in the last few weeks, in Seller Central, where you can essentially run a single product with a video that auto plays in the search listings and really helps you stand out. And that's actually been a huge play for us the last few weeks. We have done a ton of sales off of those video ads. It's a really, really great feature to have, but you have to have the brand registry, which means you have to have an approved trademark to get those features. This is probably kind of going back to what Hardy and Jeff were saying. This is huge. Like if you just throw your product up on Amazon and you are not willing to spend money, or you don't have the money to spend to make it successful, you are probably not going to succeed on Amazon. Amazon, like everything else in life, is pay to play. You need to be relevant. And if if you throw up a product, for example, like I'll use as Bluetooth speaker, and you think that you're going to, be at the front of the search results, you're incorrect. There are thousands and thousands of products competing for that same front page spot. And the way that you get to that front page is by paying to play. So if you advertise and somebody buys the product from your link, it pushes you up in the relevancy, which makes it easier for people to find you organically, which makes it easier for people to purchase. Then they see your ads. And what happens is every purchase sort of adds a layer to that snowball. And the more purchases, the bigger the snowball, until eventually the snowball is sort of just rolling on its own. I will use an example like, if you see on the slide, the revenue from ads last year to this year, you can see that the ads drive a significant amount of your business. So if you take out the ad spend, you wouldn't expect to see the difference that you saw in your gross sales less your ad spend. You would have a lot less because you would have no relevance, and people just aren't going to find you on the platform. It's not a realistic expectation. I'll give you an example. I had a client who I've been with for almost 2.5 years, and for the first year plus, he wanted to manage every spend. He didn't want to spend money testing. He wanted to control the amount of money we spent every day, the amount of money we spent every month. And we were not doing very much. We went from like around 30,000 to 40,000 at a return of less than 2x. Then earlier this year, he said, all right, go for it. And he finally let loose on the budget. We're doing 150,000 a month and we have a return of 7.5x. Because we're allowing the ads to do what they're intended to do by not sort of micromanaging the way the algorithms work. It's really, really important to trust the system and realize that you have to spend to get that data and to make money. All right, fulfillment by Amazon. So this comes up a lot. Like, do I send my inventory into Amazon or do I just ship it myself? There's no right or wrong here, but a lot of you probably when you search on Amazon, you might find yourself sliding that Prime button on because you want to find something that you can have in 1 to 2 days. There's a sort of trust that happens if it's at Amazon Fulfillment Center. You kind of know that what you ordered is what you're getting. It's easy to return. You just feel there's a confidence level there. You need this little tiny thing called Buy the Box in order to advertise. And that is simply a button on your Amazon listing that says Add to Cart. Seems very minor, but when you're at FBA, which is Fulfillment by Amazon, you're more likely to not have a problem getting that Buy the Box. When you're merchant fulfilled, Amazon doesn't necessarily always give it to you, and there doesn't have to be any rhyme or reason to that. My suggestion is if you have a key product, you send that into Amazon. And if maybe you have some bundles, like I have a wine glass company and we sell our singles on Amazon FBA, but we sell our bundles merchant fulfilled. We advertise our singles, but we sell about 50% of our sales come from bundles, which we merchant fulfill. We would not do that business if we weren't advertising those singles. So essentially we're upselling within the Amazon listing. And sometimes you'll find that it's actually cheaper to ship via FBA than for you to ship yourself. It just depends. Single units, typically you'll see that. Bundles, it's usually better for you to ship by yourself. And then the last part of that is if you have your inventory at Amazon, then let's say that you have a Shopify website and you're selling your products on online and you're sort of too small to justify the cost of a warehouse and, perhaps too busy to ship them yourself, or the cost effectiveness just isn't there. You can do things like automate your Amazon inventory to your website sales so that you can automatically just fulfill as simple as one click. Send that over and then Amazon fills it. I have a client who recently started doing this. He has an olive oil and balsamic vinegar product, and for him to bubble wrap and ship those products costs him around $8 a bottle. Then when he combines it, it gets a little less, but we can ship up to 4 bottles for the price that it costs him to ship 1 on Amazon. So for him, it doesn't make any sense for him to fulfill those himself. We've given it to Amazon. We've streamlined we've saved him time. money, and he's been able to sort of simplify that. So that's another feature of having your inventory at Amazon. I know I rushed through that because I know we're really slow on time, but I'm always really happy to chat, sort of kind of give you some advice, those kinds of things. If you have questions about what sort of makes a successful product on Amazon and how to sort of position yourself in the best possible way. There's a lot about this. I could talk for hours about how to make yourself, better positioned to succeed on Amazon, but I'm, aware that we are low on time. So
no, that's okay. We're, with this being a recorded program, everybody can go back to this. We'll make sure we send out the recorded, link, as well as the, the presentations that were all made available within 24 hours, including the contact information for Marla, Jeff, and Hardy. A couple questions came in though, Marla, that I'd like to see if you could address. First of all, what is a typical, professional selling account cost on Amazon? And then as well as what is, the difference in kind of cost and or percentages for the fulfilled by Amazon versus, shipping direct?
Yeah, for sure. So an Amazon professional account is $39.99 a month. And then when you sell your individual products, you have a few fees. One is you have your cost to ship that product to Amazon, which is very, very minimal. Even if you have a large bulky item, you get their really great discounted rates. They take between 8 to 15% in commission off of your orders. That's sort of the referral fee. That percentage is going to depend upon your category. Tech and electronics are usually 8%. Grocery, if you're under $15, is 8%. Everything else is pretty much 15%. And then you have the cost of advertising. Typically for established accounts, you'll find yourself somewhere in between the 8 to 12% cost to acquire on Amazon. In the beginning, you're going to see that a lot higher because you have to sort of find your niche. And then you have the cost to ship to the customer. So, it's tiered. I'll use an example again. I'll go back to my speakers. So my speakers, if I ship them from my warehouse, it costs me $24 to ship them ground. If I ship them from Amazon, I can ship them all day long at $16 for 2 days. So, and it's Amazon charges me $14 and the $16 is if I fulfill them through my website. So there's absolutely no reason why I wouldn't fulfill them through Amazon because I can give the customer that very fast 2-day experience for less money than ground. So, the entry point is around $3 for shipping, roughly around $3.76 to $4.79 is sort of an average 1 to 2 pound product. And then from there, it sort of goes up. And then that's really kind of all your costs on Amazon. You have some small storage fees that are higher in Q4, but if you're moving your inventory, that's going to be very minimal. So really it's just the cost of the account, the cost of the ad spend, and then the cost of the fee and the shipment.
Hey, Marla, and are there any products that are really not viable to sell on Amazon? Even if you have a truly unique product and let's say it's just a low cost or low volume or what?
Yeah, if you have a low cost item, like if you're selling a $10 a product, after they take their percentage out and then you take out the FBA fee, it really has to be a volume play. And you have to take your COGS into account because if you have a very high cost of goods and you just don't have the margins, it's going to be really tight. The other thing is B2B is tough. If you're really not a B2C product, if your whole market is B2B, it's probably not going to be successful for you. It's really a consumer driven platform. And then if you have a product that just is so far out there, it might be the most amazing product in the world, but if it's a new category or a new space, or it's really complicated to explain, and you don't have the brand awareness that goes along with making that successful, that can be really hard because you don't have, people are Amazon is more of an impulse buy. So you have to have something that explains itself really well, unless you have amazing brand awareness. If you have amazing brand awareness, then you can, that won't necessarily apply in that position.
When would a B2B type product make sense? Or you have any examples of?
I I have products we sell B2B on Amazon. Like I have a security company, and we do a lot of B2B sales. We do quite a bit of B2B sales on our Bluetooth speaker. I have this watch. It's a potty watch. It's like really tiny little product. And we do a lot of B2Bs on there, like daycares, things like that. We'll buy in bulk. But it's definitely not the majority of our money. And I would say if you're really counting on B2B significantly, then Amazon's probably not the right platform for you.
All right. So Marla, last question, and this came in through the chat thread. And I imagine, I've recognized this too, as a lot of people, it's a little bit overwhelming on, how do I start on Amazon? What are the right things to do? So this is really, they're asking, for instance, will your company help with kind of day-to-day, requirements on Amazon? So I guess the question is probably more of, what would your company do versus and can do for companies versus what would you expect they would need to do on their own?
Right. So what we do at my company is we're A to Z. I mean, I understand that Amazon is a single component of your company, and there's a lot of things that as the owners and your team need to do to sort of make your company grow. And if you're spending all your time on Amazon trying to make it successful, you're not able to focus on those other areas. So we're A to Z. I mean, we're everything from you create the account, but after that, we create your listings, we run your ads, we manage your ads day to day. If you have to ship in from your warehouse, I mean, most of my clients, I have access to their warehouse. When I need inventory, I create those shipments, I handle them on their warehouse side. Basically, if it has to do with Amazon, there's nothing for you to do except collect that payment every 2 weeks. I have some clients who want to be a little bit more involved, but I would say that at least 90% of my clients probably don't log into Amazon on any occasion unless I say, hey, I want to show you something about what's going on or whatever. So, it's sort of tailored to what you need, but generally speaking, we're sort of A to Z. I mean, this is what I do. Like I'm really good at Amazon. My team is good at Amazon. And, we understand, with all of those things sort of set into motion, like how to make you successful on Amazon.
That's great, Marla. I appreciate you being committed to being a speaker today.
Mm-hmm.
I want to thank Hardy and Jeff as well for the content they brought and expertise and recommendations. So thank you very much. For those that are still on the line, again, we will within 24 hours send out an email to you that will have the video recording as well as all the presentations you saw today. I also want to thank our sponsors that support us on a regular basis: Lawrence Tech University, City of Southfield, Michigan Economic Development Corporation, Eagle, and the New Economy Initiative for making this event possible. So with that said, we're going to sign off. Thank you very much. And you'll have an opportunity to connect with all of us through the email. We'll make sure we have contact information for Jeff, Hardy, Marla, and myself. Thanks.
Thank you.
Bye now.